Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. I'm working on my baby Bargello quilt. So if you want to see how I add stripes to the top of this quilt, please stay tuned. This is my baby Bargello quilt top that I started started in 2018 in preparations for my son's Heartbeat Bargello quilt, which was his graduation quilt. So this was my very first Bargello. I made it with a Moda scrap bag, and I took the scraps and just kind of arranged them into a design that I thought I could live with. And I created 3 panels for each one. So here's one panel, and then the middle panel is here, and then the other panel is here. And so it was really long and skinny, and so I want to fill it out into a full quilt size, and that's what we're doing today. I've already done half of this. I did the bottom half already, and I'll go through the steps and I'll show you the bottom half as well. I pulled some fabrics. I went to a local quilt shop and I got some different fabrics for my stripes to finish this out. I will insert pictures of all of those here, but there is a video where you can see all of the fabrics that I've chosen. I have gone ahead and pressed all those fabrics. I've cut all those fabrics. I want to show you up close. I'll take a picture of my my chart for how many strips I needed of each size and all that. It was just something really quick that I was able to put together, and so that you can see how I decided how much I would need. And then I have already cut everything. These are arranged by size here. So I have some 1-inch strips, 1.5-inch strips, 2-inch, and 2.5-inch strips, in all of the colors that are here in the quilt. Another thing that I did was I got a lot of fat quarters, and so some of these are still in the double strips. For example, this one right here, if it has a pin in it, I still need to stitch both of these together to get my long strip. My panels are only about 27 inches by the width of the quilt top, but I decided to use full width of fabric strips to so that I can cut down to that size that I need. So in order to get one of those, I have 2 of the fat quarter strips, and I'm stitching those together to get a full width strip. All right, so I will show you the stripes that I have so far. Again, this is for the bottom of the quilt, and I will show you how I'm going to put this together when I lay it out on the floor. So here's the bottom stripes, and all I've done is I've matched whatever color the bottom piece is in this width. For example, this is a 1.5-inch width, and so I've matched the color with the pink here. My long stripe going down is pink. And so that's basically what I'm going to be doing to the entire side of this, and I'm putting them together in a strip set, sort of. The first panel is this one, and I know because it stops at a really skinny strip and then it has a really wide strip. So the first 18 fabrics are here, and then the second are here, and then the last ones are down here. So I'm going to put one section together on video so you can kind of see it. Maybe not the whole section, excuse me, but just so that you can kind of see the process. And hopefully by the end of the video, I will have the whole top stitched together and put on the quilt top, and then this top will be finished. I will have to put one last stitch around the entire perimeter of the top just to hold it in place so that I can get ready for backing and binding. So let's lay this out on the floor and I can show you how I put the pieces in order. I have the quilt laid out right here on the floor, and I'm just going to lay out the first section of fabrics. So it's going to be from this big 2.5-inch piece to this little tiny 1-inch piece. And of course when I lay it out it's going to take up more space because of the seam allowance, but I'm going to go ahead and start laying it out and explain it, and then I'll speed up the video. So I'm going to take whatever this top piece is and I'm going to match that color for the stripes. So my first piece is a 2.5-inch strip and it's the white, so I'm just pulling that out here. And I'm just going to lay it all the way out as far as it can spread out. Okay. And then the next piece is another white, but it's a 2-inch. So I just go to my 2-inch bag and same thing, just pull it out. Now what I try to do is not match up any that are the same. So these two are actually exactly the same fabric. So I'm going to see if I can pull out a different color in the 2.5-inch. See what else I have. Alright, so I pulled this one out. What, a 2.5-inch. Okay, so here's my 2-inch. And then the next one is another 2-inch and it's green. So I'll pull that. Just making sure that I keep my colors together. And then I'll just keep going, laying these out until I get through the till I get all of them laid out. I will speed up the video here, but I do want to show the whole layout on camera. So speeding up here, and I'll see you in a bit. All of the pieces are laid out for the first set of stripes. So my next step is going to be to take them over to the sewing machine and stitch them together. I have the first two pieces for my stripes. I've just put them right sides together, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4-inch seam down the side here. And this piece is actually two pieces that are each of them are with a fabric, so I don't have to do any piecing to join them together to make the stripe. I am joining them together as a part of the panel, and I'm just gonna again just do a simple 1/4-inch seam. I'm not really holding it too tight. Don't want to try to stretch it. I don't think it's gonna stretch really. And then for each one of these, you know, just join them together, and then after it's done, I'm going to finger press until I get the whole panel done, and then I'll stitch the whole thing. And I'm going to do this with chain piecing. So after I get this piece stitched, I'm actually going to join two of my fat 1/4 pieces so that I can keep chain stitching. The piece that's above this on the machine is already it's two of the fat 1/4 pieces that I've joined with a diagonal seam. So I'm just continuing to join down the side of this. I don't think really this takes that long. I'm just a slow sewer. So if you're faster than me, that's fine. I'm just a slow sewer. So I'm going to finish this up, hopefully pretty quick, and then I will show you how I joined together the two fat quarter pieces to make that long strip. It's basically the same stitch that or the same seam that I do when I'm creating my binding, but I'll show it to you on camera because it's just a small strip. Okay. And you can see I just have my 1/4 inch seam, have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine. I'm just doing a regular straight stitch, not I didn't even really adjust my stitch length. It doesn't really have to be too tight, and you kind of want to have a little bit of give in your fabric when you do a Bargello because you're going to have to join these pieces together. So almost done here. And then now I'll show you my two pieces that I have to join. These are two of my 1 inch strips, and I'm just going to join with a diagonal seam. So I put them right sides together at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to stitch this seam down. You want to leave, I kind of want to leave as much fabric as possible, but it hasn't really, I don't feel like it's affected the length of the strip too much because it's not quite with the fabric, but it's close enough. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to take this first piece off. I'm finger pressing. I'm actually going to finger press these towards the first fabric. Let me cut this off. Finger press these towards the first fabric, so just like this. Okay, you can see that, and the stitch is going, the seam allowance is going to the left. Alright, so I'm going to finish finger pressing this, and then I'll pull the next piece and show you how I join that together. I went ahead and pulled my next piece of strip for the stripes, and I've done, I stitched opposite directions. So before I started from this end stitching, now I'm going to start at the other end, which is going to put the new fabric, fabric 3, on the bottom. Okay, so I just alternate directions. I haven't had an issue with bowing doing it this way, and I'm really nervous about just sewing it straight because I don't want it to bow at all. So I will continue stitching these and finger pressing until I get all, I think it's 18 fabrics done, and then I will show you the next step. My entire strip set is done for the first panel. Now I have it lined up on my wide ruler. This is my 24 by 36 ruler, and I'm going to cut it down, square it up to either 27 or 28 inches. Out of this one, I think I can get a good 28 inches, and so I'm going to go ahead and square up to that measurement. I'm just choosing one of the lines to, one of the seam lines to line up with the ruler, and then just kind of going from there. And then I'm lining up along I'm using the lines of the ruler to help square up as well. So I also have a 5-pound weight at one end so that the ruler hopefully doesn't move while I'm cutting. I'm starting on the 0 line, and I'm going to go ahead and make a nice cut. Oh, it moved. Let's see, just line it back up here. Okay, and then I'm going to just pick up my ruler and move it down to the 28-inch line. And probably the best way to do this would be to do all 3 strip sets first and then cut, but I haven't done that, and it's worked out okay. One time it was pretty tight, but I was still able to get the 28 inches, so I'm just going to keep going with that. for this side too. And if I don't get the 28, I'll just square them all down to whatever the smallest or whatever the biggest measurement is I can get for all three. Okay, so this is the little section that's going to that I'm going to lay next to my quilt and make sure everything lines up. It should be fine. And then this extra, if I can get 2.5 inches, I'm going to pull 2.5 inches off of this and try to use it for the binding. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get for from, I don't know if I'll get enough to go all the way around the quilt, but I'm going to try and get as much as I can to make a nice binding for the quilt. Let's take this over and hold it up next to the quilt so you can see how that's going. You can see that each section is pretty much in place to be connected. The only thing that I have to do now is do the other two panels, and then I'll show you how to put those panels together and then put the whole quilt together. All three of the top stripes are put together. They're not quite sewn together yet, but my next step is going to be to pin them very carefully, stitch them together, and I will show you what they look like before I stitch them onto the rest of the quilt. The panels that you see, not the panels, but the pieces that you see on the side, these are leftovers that I cut into 2.5 inches. They're leftovers from the large strip sets, and I'm going to use those to make the binding. So right now I'm piecing those together as well as my leader enders. So let's get this pinned and get the whole panel stitched together. The top panel is finally done. All I need to do now is place this panel onto this, and I'm gonna I'll be able to line up each of the seams. They do oppose, so I should be able to line them up and it fit perfectly. I'm a little bit concerned because the panel up here is a little bit wider than my original panel, but I think it'll have a little stretch in it and it'll give me a little bit of flexibility. So let me stitch these two pieces together and then I'll show you what it looks like. So I have the quilt top finished. I really like the way it turned out. The only other thing that I did was I stay stitched around the edge about 1/8 of an inch. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But I stay stitched around the edge about 1/8 of an inch just to keep it from fraying while I do the rest of it. The only other thing that I have to do now is finish up the binding. You can see that I still have the strips here about halfway on about half of the quilt, but the other half is on the sewing machine. I'm putting the binding together and then we'll have this quilt top and binding finished. I'm so excited to have this quilt top finally finished. It's really exciting. I love the way that it turned out. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I really am happy with it. I measured the top. It was like 88.5 by 66.25, something like that. So I'm really excited to see what it's like cuddling on the sofa watching TV or letting the TV watch me as I sleep. It's going to be a really great quilt. I almost want to go ahead and get the backing and the batting and see how to quilt it, but I just need a few minutes or a while to decide how I want to quilt it. But I may be ready to move forward and go ahead and pull that batting and backing. Maybe. We'll see. I did make the binding. These are left over from the strip sets that I cut for those outer panels. And I still had, I think I put them over there. I still have a pretty good bit of this fabric left over in the strip sets. So I will probably incorporate them as a part of my string quilts. So, but I think that's great to have that much left over and to have gotten such a great product out of those few fabrics that I purchased. It's it's really rewarding to feel that and to have this done. If you have any questions about what you've seen in the video, please leave them in the comments below. Thumbs up this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm really excited to see what the next step is in this process. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!